get high, man?
That stimulates your mind.
Get up, Chucky! What have we got here? A fucking comedian.
Rojan Kim.
All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Rojan Kim cast. It's me, Rojan Kim. Today, joining me is Victor Patrick Alvarez, filmmaker extraordinaire, proud American.
Very proud, thank you.
Former New Yorker. I met you way back in the day in New York. When you moved out here. How long have you been out in LA?
I've been on and off about like 10 years. I moved here when I was 24 and I did my first movie. And then I went to New York and I went to Cuba, then I went to Asia. You know, I've been doing kind of like this world tour, and New York and LA have always been a backbone. Yeah,
dude. Wait a minute. Did you operate the Steadicam for my thesis? Fuck yeah, dude. That was like the best shot of my movie. That was the best shot. It really was. It was the shot of it going up his ass.
Ever,
yeah. That's actually I've gotten the most compliments from that shot. From that whole movie. The whole movie, they were like, that opening shot is amazing. Like the rest of the movie, they're like, we don't have the rest of the movie's weird. That fucking opening shot. That was great.
That was probably the most authentic opening, one take shot ever. That I'll ever be involved
I mean,
in.
you got it. The whole idea is just some weird virus going up this guy's ass, and Avery, our good friend Avery, who
Avery
still
Grayson,
actually
legend.
That fucking is my highest rated video yet on YouTube.
It's so relevant today. Like, you're ahead of your time, Rose. I mean, that's one of the things I wanted to say is like your comedy in 2 years is going to be like super, super up there.
I hope so. I mean, hopefully I survive. Yeah.
Dude, talk virus, time travel, like dark side, all these things that are totally trending today.
Well, even back then, that was the Obama years or whatever, but even back then it was just so ridiculous. Politics was so ridiculous, and it's just like kind of honestly, I don't think it's that different. Like, a lot of people feel like, oh, it's so different now or whatever, but it was like, I don't know. It's been pretty ridiculous. You know what I mean? I think maybe it's like different because of social media and all that stuff. But in terms of just how kind of ridiculous everybody is, it seems pretty similar. You know what I mean? Like, it's just as absurd. Because back then it was all about how Obama was a Muslim. It's like a secret Muslim. And like,
what's funny is it's funny you bring that up. I never paid attention to politics at all. I never, I remember being in Brooklyn, and then Obama became president, and then sticking my head out the window and screaming, and everyone screaming like it was a huge moment, and it was like it was a happy day, and I've always felt like the less I paid attention to politics, the happier I was,
Yeah, totally.
And I respect the comedians and respect the people who pay attention to it, because it's brutal. It's very ugly. But your film, 360 is made light of it, and it, and your jokes too online. I really love what you're doing. I really love it so much, and it's so refreshing to hear someone in the entertainment industry be very like thought provoking, and not just what we like to call 3D.
Wait, what is that? What's 3D?
So 3D, you never heard of 3D?
Well, I kind of can guess. I feel like one of them is Democrat.
Yeah. No. Like, that's a disclaimer. I know we're talking about the Great Awakening, and it's this phenomenon that I can't wait to share. But it's like, one of the things that, like, I really disclaimer, like, the politics stuff, the rumors, the conspiracy theories, like, I'm not here to really talk about any of that. I don't really think that's I think that does a disservice. I think that is the virus, and I think we should just really pay attention to what's in front of us and what we really think about things,
Right.
So,
well, first of all, I appreciate the things you're saying, I appreciate that. It's, it's very rare to, it's like being independent or free. I don't even consider myself that, but just, whatever, just not going along with what everybody says.
Oh, it's so
Considered,
refreshing.
but I mean, that's not, you know what I mean? It shouldn't be, you know what I'm saying? It's like, it shouldn't be that it's so, everybody's just so either on one side or the other, that if anybody's like, hey, what are we doing, that like suddenly that person is the enemy, you know what I mean? But it's a very common thing that I hear, about how like extremists actually love each other. So like you know what I mean? It's the middle they hate. It's the rational,
Yeah.
reasonable people they hate, right? Because they're the threat. They're the real threat. Because as long as you have the enemy, the war is fine. You know what I mean? This justifies the war. But the people in the middle trying to rationalize things, that's who you hate, because they want to normalize it. You know what I mean? They want to actually bring everything to the middle. But anyways, how about we start with, can you just explain or sum up what the Great Awakening is? Because I actually don't know. I'm totally ignorant on this stuff. So why don't you let me know, man?
So, from my perspective personally, like I said, it's I'm not here to talk about the Satan cult or the
Wait, I don't even know.
Jr.
But here's the thing: I don't even know about any of that. So can you fill me in? I don't even know what you're not trying to talk about. So I don't like just fill me in on.
So there's so I just started dropping this hashtag because I feel like it's the one hashtag that makes the most sense, because it's a very positive thing. Yes, people have hijacked it and put their agendas behind it, which is free speech. It's like it's just a conversation that that everyone just wants to have and everyone's afraid of having. As far as the specifics, and so like the 3D world of it all. So this is super important in the Great Awakening, is that there's third dimension, fourth dimension, fifth dimension, sixth dimension, and it's not really woo woo. It's actually it's to sum it all up, it's a conscious awakening. And if you do your research and you look at all these histories and religions, what they did was, thousands of years ago, this is how they talked. And then as time progressed, we've got very 3D, which I could say is identity politics, which is, a big term the right uses to, attack the left, which again, I don't, I as a filmmaker, storyteller, I'm just fascinated by all of this, and how like governors are like, it's are like playing a key role now, because, growing up in this world, you think in the 3D world that nobody has power, like nobody's commanding anything. No one can do anything. We're all predetermined. Everything's aligned. Like whatever, let's just get high and chill and, have a good time. Like that's how I feel like as an American I was raised, And now to go, to play it further with the Great Awakening, when someone told me I could not go outside, I can't do this, I can't do this, I can't do this, that it's like, whoa, what? In the name of compassion? All right. In the name of compassion, dude, Captain Compassion here, like, but then like I started seeing the politics get involved in how we are governed as individuals, as the word, this is a big, powerful word, sovereignty, right? And since then, I think that's when my like 3D world started defining the Great Awakening, right? Now, I don't know if I'm going off topic. There's just so much to talk about religion.
Go ahead, man. Go for it.
And just help me, I don't want to go off track and be like it's a tangent or anything.
Yeah. Well, okay. So the Great Awakening is sort of like, it is a meme or a hashtag going around, but it's sort of been co-opted by different sides for whatever it means, right? Like just like being woke or whatever, right? Like this idea. Yeah. But what you're saying is you're kind of embracing it in your own interpretation of it is sort of like almost like I don't know, it's like almost like a new enlightenment or something. You know what I mean? It's like a new age of reason, essentially, like a new age, not enlightenment, fucking, you know what I mean? Enlightenment was when
they're calling it a new earth. They're calling it a new earth where human beings operate on a higher conscious level, where we're conscious of the environment, where we're conscious of how we treat each other, how we judge each other, how we talk about each other. We're conscious of, and this is what I really want to talk about, in the media and the responsibility of entertainers, and television and Netflix and HBO. It's like, this is like, as a filmmaker, I'm just going to come out and say it, like, when the TV stopped, the industry stopped, like my world stopped. I stopped. Like everything just like halted. Everything became like this, like, whoa, what do I do now? Like I was supposed to go watch Black Widow, this week. This is
Right.
Oh my God, what do I do? And then it's like, well, all right, well, what is the internet talking about all of this? And I think that's when you come across the Great Awakening hashtag. And what I really love, it's a really sexy way of being spiritual, and having spirituality as this kind of practice, and I think that that's like spirituality. And even today, man, like Google Jesus, there's people taking statues down, and it's like white supremacy. And it's like, this, I think that's like the perfect example of, what is of how people can take this awakening. And then you look at the Biden clip, when he's like, wake up, and then he closes the book and walks off the stage. And I'm just like, wait, this guy's telling us to wake up after he's been in the politics for 40 years or something like that. And it's things like that that are kind of really I'm really becoming aware of
Mm-hmm.
like the usually you see a politician on the screen and you're like, oh, well, that guy's a scumbag, oh, but he's got good policies, but now it's like, ooh, I know who that guy is. I've been watching all of his clips, for the last 30 years, and there's a lot of Biden clips in the Great Awakening hashtag, and it's really bringing light into these conversations that we've been told are taboo,
Now, do you think a lot of this has to do with like the internet and the fact that we have more access to information that's usually been, because the whole idea of media is that they were the gatekeepers of information, right? They got to just screen all that stuff and kind of shape what reality is for people. But now it's like the illusion is breaking because people are like getting to peek behind the curtain. You know what I mean? There's too much information, so they can't hide it all. You know what I mean? So I can see that happening, but I also kind of see the counter trend is like, it's like a Brave New World. You ever read Brave New World?
No, but I can imagine. But
so Brave New World is like, Huxley it was talking about like how, because the two books that kind of were famous around that time about dystopians were 1984 and Brave New World. And 1984 is a very like communist. I mean, essentially it was a critique of communism, like there's one party, it's like forever war, and there's all this stuff, and it's like all about sort of that, right? And like thought police, there's things like newspeak, which is sort of the jargon that the news uses to just bullshit you, just make stuff up, which is basically what we're seeing now. So we see a lot of that stuff now, but Brave New World was interesting because it wasn't an authoritative society at all. What it was an absolutely hedonistic society where there was tons of entertainment, tons of drugs, they didn't hide anything. They actually just flooded everybody with information, and it got to the point where people just couldn't deal, so they would just all numb themselves. You know what I mean? Like you can't do it. So I see like both elements, right? Like I think there's always going to be culture which seeks to be as sort of complacent as possible. Like most people just kind of want to not deal with anything bad and just, you know what I mean? Like most people just kind of want to like go through their lives not caring about anything and just, getting food and stuff, like.
That is the awakening. It's like, it's almost impossible to go about your day not caring, because there's so many, it's affecting like our daily routine. It's affecting our psychological mentality, and so it's kind of weird. Like we're becoming very conscious of everything you were just the 1984 and the Brave New World,
But I also wonder, like, because I feel like you are, you're not like, most other people, and your friends are probably similar in that way. You know what I mean? So I feel like, because there's really like, if you're watching, especially in entertainment media, if you're looking at what's going on, it's essentially like I don't know, I would say kind of like a fascist communist takeover. You know what I mean? It's sort of this weird, like, because they're making lists. There's people, in comedy in New York, my old friends, they were like making lists of racist comedian who they deemed racist and circulating the list around. And then like, if you question the list, you get put on the list. You know what I mean?
Dude,
if you were like hey, what's up with this list? They're like, now you're on the list. You're obviously an enemy. You know what I mean? And then the dude who made the list put up a post saying like, oh, 4 people apologized to me personally, so I took them off the list. You know what I mean? Like so then it just becomes about groveling, right? Like he just wants you to grovel, and then he's like, okay, now I take you. You know, so I see it. So I feel like there's like so many different, you know, like forces going on, and what you're advocating is actually the most difficult route, right? Like, which that's the thing, is like it takes the most work. So that's why it's like, you know, so I am hopeful. I'm always optimistic that things will change, but it's also like when you look at the way people are behaving now, you can see that there's very little thought, and it's more like fear-based sort of like grouping together and being like, you know, you can see like the coronavirus, they fucking use. Well, okay, honestly, I can take the shit. We could take the shit all the way back to the beginning of the country, right? I mean, we can take it all that. We don't have time. So I always like to start at 9/11. You know what I mean? Like I was just because, you know, WMDs, that's the biggest obvious example of how the media and the government lied to all of us. And then when they got caught in the lie, they were just like, they just moved on. They just Jedi mind tricked everybody. They were like, look over there. and then they went on to lie about other stuff, you know, financial crisis, like in Brexit, Trump getting elected, Russiagate, impeachment, it was and pandemic. It's like one thing after another where you're like, well, people are complaining like nobody trusts the media or the government. It was like, well, no wonder. Right? I mean, that's actually rational to me. In my mind, you'd be an idiot to actually trust them at this point. Right, like so I don't know, I wonder how it's all gonna kind of like
well, that's
go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, like, that's what's great about this awakening, right? It's like you get to like really, you know, not to get too deep, you know. First off, like a little backstory with me in the industry is, you know, I made this movie in Cuba, and you know, I kind of like, you know, why you get into this business is information, is entertainment with information. I mean, at least for me, and I know a lot of people would criticize me. No, it's to entertain and distract and escape. And I'm like, actually, no. Part of my intellect has been researching movies and learning about movies and learning who the people are behind movies, you know, and when they have free speech or when they don't, when like the lack of saying things, you know, and like, you know, it's been very, you know, enlightening for me, because I mean, I've been watching. I'm one of those like geek filmmakers that started watching movies when they were 13, and that's all I did. You know, that's how I like understood people, was through movies. Like I had 3 older brothers, and like none of them, you know, I couldn't connect with them unless I watched a movie and talked about the movie. That was how I connected with them. That's how I connect with people. That's why I'm like such a free spirit, is because there's so many personalities in movies that you can actually really learn to understand, at least get in their world. And you know what what boggles my mind, Rojan, is that no one looks at movies like this. And it's, you know, and if I started talking about this, you're gonna get some yawns. You're gonna get, all right, but let's talk about the editing. Let's talk about the camera angles. And it's like, why don't we talk about what that does for us, how it affects us psychologically, the writing behind it, you know, and why they're writing it a certain way, why James Bond is turning this into a comedic moment, what that does for the senses and the nervous system. You know what I mean? It's like, that's the Great Awakening, you know, that's the new world that we're coming into. And like, and it's a shame when there's a lot of things that don't want this to happen. You know, they're doing everything in their power to make sure people don't get aware of, you know, the intentions behind what's being played off the screens. You know, we live in a world of screens. Like, this is like our world, and it's like, what's on the screen? What are we putting on? Why are we putting on? You know, and like, you know, part of the awakening too is like when you learn about distractions, is what, look over here. That's what you were talking about. You know, first off, we were talking about 9/11, right? Did you see Vice? Did you see the movie Vice?
Oh, the Cheney movie? No.
Man, I would just love to just talk to a whole podcast on that, dude. It's like,
I mean, I don't know about the movie, but I know about all the allegations about Cheney during 9/11. Like, I know he did that test, the NORAD test, and grounded all the flights, coincidentally, right? Like,
yeah, well, and look, I mean, when you watch the film, you're like, hello, let's talk about this. And, and it just blows my mind that no one's talking about it. They're just giving Christian Bale an award. And it's like, no, we need to talk about this.
Oh,
we need to,
I mean, but don't you think that's sort of, like, I mean, we can take it back to the beginning of the country, because it's like our country is founded on twin pillars of sin, right? It's genocide and slavery. Like that's how we got all those awesome screens behind you. It's because all those people.
Capitalism.
It's basically on the backs of all these people, right? Like, so and right now we're still just dealing with slavery. We haven't even opened the Pandora's box of genocide. You know what I mean? We haven't even talked about. We don't even talk about. So I feel like because of that, we are a country that has skeletons in our closet. You know what I mean? We got skeletons in our closet. So that's why it's like it's not pleasing to open up that closet and start bringing out.
Yeah.
Even though that's what we need to do. I mean, that's why it's like therapy. I always think about it like.
I was gonna say it's like,
yeah.
It's time for America to go into therapy, not to tear down, not to be drastic and start making up these horrible decisions, but we need to go into therapy. We need to really, and you know what? Now, I'm sorry to cut you off.
No.
This comes back to the spirituality. Like it's really about identifying who we are, where we come from. We give off vibration. I haven't talked about this yet, and I don't want to get into a tangent, but when I was in the film industry, I had to take a break, dude. I was like, man, I don't feel connected to the material. I don't feel connected to the reality of the situation. I feel like we're making a show to distract people, but be positive. And that was one of the things that is really great about being a positive filmmaker is you make positive things. But I'm like, this conversation should go a lot deeper than we're taking it. And everyone's like, no, we can't, because then we're going to open Pandora's box. And it's like, or we're going to sound preachy or spiritual. And it's like, no. We just need to ask people really thoughtful questions. And then we put those together and people can actually make an opinion for themselves. And I feel like that's like the big part of this whole awakening is like, why are we making some of these movies? And what is the purpose behind it? And yeah. And I'm sorry. I think I'm going a little.
No. But I mean, and I don't know. I think in that way, that's what news has become, is they're just making movies. They're not even reporting the truth anymore. You know what I mean? It's like, because when you make a movie, your goal is not to tell the truth, right? It's just to make a good movie, right? Like, so that's really what they're doing, is like, they have no interest in serving the public or telling the truth. They just need to make money and get access. I think that's the other thing they kind of have this fetish about, is like gaining access. So then if you question the powerful people, they won't let you have access anymore. But it's the opposite of journalism, right? You should be hated. They should hate you. Like, journalists should be hated by everybody in power.
Oh, I got something to say about journalists during this awakening for me. I mean, but finish the thought, and then I'm going to explain a very rare opportunity that I had during this pandemic, and it blew my mind.
Yeah, blew my mind. I mean, just to finish that, I think, what we're seeing is the result of it's really after Clinton, when all the corporate media sort of merged, you know what I mean? Like, when he signed that law that let them all merge, the news became merged with the editorial side became merged with the commercial side, you know what I mean? So that you couldn't be critical of your advertisers anymore. And then once that started happening, and then the clickbait started happening, the new ad revenue model came in, then it just became all about driving clicks. And then they figured out it's outrage that generates most clicks. So so now what you have is, like, I do this all the time. You read the headline and read the article. It's 180 degrees. It's like opposite. It's literally the opposite of what the headline just said. You know what I mean? So they're like, and I learned that the editors are actually the ones who write the articles, not the journalists. So the editors take the article and then turn it into a sensational headline that will get clicks, even if it's completely opposite from what the article is saying, because people just share it based on the headlines, So anyway, go ahead. What were you saying?
No, I mean, it's like screenwriting, man. It's like opposite. We need an antagonist, we need a villain, and it's really so. Part of this awakening is I've been meeting all of these very interesting people on the internet that like I've never thought I would connect with. Like since some, and this is like, I'm a positive guy. So you tell me to, stay inside your house, I'm gonna I'm going to still be positive about it. And I've been connecting with people, you know, we're connecting during this, you know, which is a really awesome thing. We haven't talked I mean, dude, you've during this whole pandemic have been a blessing, because I'm like, oh my God, someone is pushing the narrative. Someone's bringing the narrative to light. And it's just like, and then you're doing it so authentically, and yeah, it may sound really dark, but I see that that's part of like the awakening, you know, that every time I read it, I'm like, oh man, you're right, you know, and comedy is truth, right? And so I just love that there's someone like you, and I think more people should do that. More people should push the envelope, and you know, into questioning what it is that we're doing. So back to the journal. So I'm meeting all these interesting people. Dude, from all over the world. It is one of the greatest things about this whole thing. From New Zealand, New York, LA, Montana, like all over, dude. It's been, and I'm engaging with people that don't agree with me, but they're like, I like you. I'm like, I like you too. Like, let's figure this out, please. You know, and they're like, yeah, let's figure this out. And then that becomes like the possibility of what's possible. Because if you dive into the status quo, you're gonna, you know, it's all negative, man. You're gonna get your arm chopped off, you know. And so that there's this like other world happening. Anyways, part of this new connection with people, fans, I guess, you know, that they're like, hey, so there's an invite to this prestigious school of journalism. You know, I think it would be great if you joined in. You know, you'll be muted, but you can listen to all of these incredible journalists talk about the pandemic. I was like, really? Dude, Rojan, I applied because I was in Florida at the time, and I was like, I need to join a news station. This is awesome. We get to like really play with this. Dude, nobody would hire me. Once they realized that I was neutral, that I wasn't against Trump. Like if I would have went there saying, hey, down with Trump, let's put him out, they'd been like, come on, here's a camera, go. But I was like, no, this is fascinating. I would love to do both side journalism, like, but in a big way. And they're like, we're not hiring right now. And I was like, oh my God, dude, we can kill this. We could break some stories here, you know. And you know, Palm Beach and West Palm Beach is a very Trumpy place, but like you can walk down the street and see a Biden sign that's not trampled over. You know, it's very civil. I mean, the ratio is a little uneven, but the respect is even. You know, no one's saying like, duh, you know. And so, and even they just did a rally in West Palm Beach too, where the Black Lives Matter and the police were one, and they were protesting, you know, legislation change. So it's like you know, West Palm Beach is very, I would say, very progressive, and it definitely is because the president's there, obviously, but it's a microcosm could be a macrocosm, you know. But it is a reality for me while I'm over there. So, but I get into this journalism school. Sorry, I feel like I'm like, all right, Rojan, we're going to talk about the Great Awakening, and then like I've just been building and building and building and building, and then here we are, you know. And so I get this really rare and honored opportunity and privilege, dude. This is a privilege, bro, to sit here in this meeting where these huge, masterful journalists, you know, are talking about the pandemic. Dude, what I discovered broke my heart, bro. Dude, none of them were being journalists. They were all trying to get the clickbait. They were trying to find a story that fit their narrative that they knew was going to get clicks and get New York Times publicity. And I sat there and I was like, what is going on? Like, nobody's talking about the two political sides. No one's talking about finding out whether this pandemic is being out of proportion or not. Like, no one's doing any of that. They're just trying to find a narrative that fits them. And they even had a topic like, so what is the story everyone's going for? And so I sat there for like 30 minutes hearing them searching for these stories and not finding them. But they're still searching. They're like, I'm gonna get it. So they're spending these 2 weeks looking for this story or trying to fit this narrative that's gonna get clickbaits in the world. I'm like, can I record this? I feel like a whistleblower, you know? Like this is what like our school systems, prestigious school systems, are teaching, and it's mind blowing. I mean, and that's when like everything was like, you know, I'm like, I turned off the news and I've just been watching live stuff since then, and real videos and people talking and sharing their heart and sharing what they think of the world, like not someone who's trying to put fear. And then then you turn on the news and then you start to see tactics of music and underscore and projecting. This is a huge one. So this is a huge thing about the Great Awakening too, is language, words, like the whole thing about spelling, right? Like you spell something, it's spelling, it's casting spells, and getting used to the intonations and the connotations and the intentions behind phrases and words. This is huge for the Great Awakening. This is why like texts like the Bible and Jesus is becoming really popular, because it's just words. It's just words that are contrasting what we're seeing on our media and on our television. One of the most controversial things I posted was the I can't breathe and the pranayama, and how was like your breath, like saying that you can't breathe is actually telling our brain that we can't breathe, and what that does to the nervous system. It makes us angry, makes us agitated. A lot of people were offended. And I was like, guys, like if we want to be like 4D, 5D, let's change the words, empower, lift up the spirit, and actually start being this great America, not bringing everything down. It's like, let's build everything up and be more conscious of it. And so words, syllables, numbers, like these are things that actually affect our psychology and our subconscious that are part of the Great Awakening. And journalism should be in that responsibility, like we're really saturating, and it's becoming a drug. I feel like we're addicts of drama, and no one's talking about that. And a big thing during the pandemic was numbers for mental health. And I think that is where, I think that's where we're headed, and it's okay. And even, dude, I was when you did that, the psych ward thing, I thought that was brilliant. No one had ever talked about a psych ward as a place where that could benefit you, that could add value to your life. And I was like, dude, this is the Great Awakening. Like, you are a part of the Great Awakening. You think of psych ward and you think of like straitjackets and and even like changing that name even, and just say like, therapy sessions, and just really just getting aware of how hard it is to be human, essentially, and be a free human. I mean, that's what this whole thing's about, really, right? I mean, sorry,
okay.
I'm really
no, don't worry. So, all right, let me see. I think so. The journalist thing, I think. Well, yes, a lot of what you would call like establishment journalism, it used to be very like respected or whatever. But the thing is, like, journalism was never like, you never had to go to school for journalism. You know what I mean? That's actually like what rich people do. Like, who can afford to go to? No, it is like you go to Columbia. It is actually an elite thing for the upper classes to become, because journalism is still seen as like a, if you don't have the chops to become a banker or become a hedge fund manager, you know what I mean? Journalism is sort of like, there's some prestige to that, and you get access and all that. But real journalists are like, people that you've never heard of that people don't like, like people like my favorite journalists right now are all not on any network, whatever. They're independent media journalists who challenge status quo, right? Like, because that's what you gotta have. I can't remember who said it, but he said if you're doing news and it's not pissing someone off, it's propaganda, right? Like, the whole point of news is that you're uncovering truth, and truth is usually something somebody doesn't want you to uncover, and they have to make them mad. But that no longer happens. So let's just take the example of Russiagate, right? So like Russiagate started in exactly.
So what is Russiagate, real fast?
Okay.
I honestly don't. I know the narrative, but I don't have the connection to that hashtag.
Well, Russiagate is basically like, after Hillary lost, it was they were saying the reason she lost was because the Russians interfered in our elections, and that Trump is a Putin puppet. He's actually been inserted into the U.S. government by Vladimir Putin, and he's doing his bidding. That's why there's clips on MSNBC of Rachel Maddow being like, of Vladimir Putin could maybe have access to the gas grid in Minnesota during a winter, and he could cause everybody. I mean, it's like it's crazy fear. It's like bonkers, absolutely bonkers. And it's basically Red Scare shit. I mean, like it's like back when they were being afraid of the commies. It's the same shit. Like, they're infiltrating and they're coming. And then you had fucking John Brennan, the fucking former head of the CIA, coming on TV and being like, you're like, you know what? His whole family's going to go to jail. He basically told everybody with a straight face, they're going to find evidence to take down Donald Trump Jr. They're going to take down they're going to take down his whole family. He's like, the Ides of March are going to be very problematic for the president. You know, it's like 3 years, the entire
3 years of this.
Yeah, because think of 2016, and then the fucking, when did impeachment come? Impeachment came in 2019. Impeachment, okay, had actually nothing to do with Russiagate. The reason impeachment came is because Russiagate, remember, they were like, when the Mueller report drops, it's all going to come out, right? It's all going to come out. Mueller report drops, nothing. So then they're like, we got it. What we're going to do is we're going to interview Mueller, and the shit's going to come out. They fucking interview him, and nothing. And they even have clips of them being like, is it true that that you didn't prosecute the president because you can't prosecute the standing president, or because of what the Office of Legal Counsel said? And then first he was like, yes, but then he was like, oh no, wait, no, my bad, not yes, no, that's not why. You know, basically he's saying people are trying to make the case that like there is proof that he committed a crime, but the reason we're not prosecuting him is because he's the president. That's like what people are saying. But Mueller himself was like, oh no, that's not the reason we're not, is because we didn't find any evidence of a crime. But we can't exonerate him. So that's what you're saying about the wordplay, right? I understand what you mean about the wordplay, because listen, there's no such thing as exoneration in legal language. Nobody says you're exonerated. No. You're either guilty or not, right? The fact that he threw that in there is what everybody jumped on and was like, see, Mueller himself says he's not exonerated, but he also literally says there's no evidence that he committed. You know what I mean? They don't point that. So anyways, what we're talking, that's called, in logic, it's called begging the conclusion, right? It's called having confirmation bias, where instead of finding the truth and deriving what reality must be from there, is you determine reality first, and then you look for things to confirm that reality. And anything that doesn't, we just conveniently ignore. You know what I mean? We're just like, because it doesn't fit our agenda, right? So that's what you witnessed happening. And after, I would honestly take it all the way back, you know, like to 9/11 or whatever, but that's what they do. That's actually considered journalism, where like you're considered to be part of the story yourself, and like you have an agenda and you're going to find the truth. And so all that means is that it's just a bunch of people who have confirmation bias looking for things, you know what I mean, out there. So anyways, I feel like that's what you saw, you know what I mean? Like you saw like the elite journalists getting together and basically not doing just being propagandists, because that's what they essentially are.
Well, on the positive side, remember, you know, you always got to look at the positive. They're expressing themselves, you know, and so that's okay. But I'm like, well, where's the other? Well,
okay, yes and no. But I'm telling you, if you follow the money, is what I'm saying. Like, they're not really expressing themselves, man. They don't know what to think. They're just being told what to think, and then they tell other people what to think. You know what I mean? So like, I maybe some of them do believe it, but honestly, my big thing is that the media media actually loves Trump. Like, the media actually loves Trump. You know what I mean? They love it. Do you know how much money Trump has made for them? Like, do you know how boring the news would be if Hillary Clinton was president? The news would be like today the president droned a bunch of people. Good for her. Like, that would be the news. You know what I mean? There'd be no critique of the state if just like kind of like under Obama. There was basically no critique of the state. You know what I mean? So in some ways, yeah, man, they are making money hand over fist because of this guy. You know what I mean? Like the ratings and shit. So they love this guy. You know what I mean? The worst thing for them to do is for him to lose. That's literally the worst thing for them.
Yeah, well, that's another thing about the Great Awakening. And like, I hate to say this, I will say it, because, you know, part of being like an Aquarian is like, I take this, you know, and it's like, thank God there's a president like this, you know, that's really bringing our consciousness to the man in charge. Like how, like, you know, and this is one thing that I find really fascinating, is the more I research this guy, the more I find less wrong with him and more of like a really smart American, you know, who's, you know, essentially playing the game. You know, if you look at the American consciousness, we're at like a fourth grade level, or actually a third grade level. You know, I think that's part of the third dimension. We're all on a third grade level. We, like, our thing is like, woo, spring break, ass and titties and all this like negative stuff. Like, you know, not negative, but stuff that is very 3D, very physical. So that's like back to the Great Awakening. Like, the 3D world is basically the Matrix. It's people watching content like this, people watching television, people on social media, people taking pictures of their food. You know, this kind of like 3D world it's, you know, very cool and beautiful or ugly, or, you know, it's very descriptive. That's the 3D world. And when you get in the 4D world, you're kind of like on the outskirts, and you're not just like looking at Trump, you know, wanting Trump to win. You're looking at the whole political situation, and you're looking at like, oh, well, this is a Republican, and look at these are his policies, and then this is a Democrat, and this is what they're pushing right now. And so you're like on a fourth dimensional looking down at it, and you're like, damn, this is, dude, everyone's ridiculous. Like everyone, and then you're like, I can't even watch this anymore. And then you get to 50, you know, where you're like, yeah, about that, I'm actually just gonna put my time into, you know, important people and connect with important consciousness and create awareness, and not be a part of any of that, you know, and or not entertain that, because that in the 4D world is actually not servicing my energy, my time, my output, my vibration. And so like this is the 3D, 4D, 5D, 6D, 7D, 8D, you know, and a lot of these like Elon Musk, dude, that guy's like, you know, even though he's really part of the 3D world, dude, that guy's like trying to discover ancient civilizations on Mars, bro. He's playing the 12D, you know, he's playing like our alien ancestrally, which is another part of the Great Awakening that I think we wouldn't be just like servicing it well if we didn't talk about it, about aliens and our ancient ancestry, and how we are like a genetic, you know, modified being that is quite a miracle, actually.
Oh, do you know about like Zachariah Sitchin, the whole thing about the Anunnaki and how that's like the whole thing about how they came here and modified the monkeys in order to get them to mine the gold for them or whatever.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't know.
That's adding negative. I mean, even though that's a great story, but it's like they just played God with us, and they evolved us, and I do believe that. Well, I don't necessarily believe, but I have a gut feeling that, you know, we look a certain way because we're genetically crossbred with certain things, and I think like part of the awakening is like this 23andMe, and we're learning our genetic origins, you know, and like, you know, I'm finding out I'm not Cuban. I'm actually like 30% Mongolian, you know, and it's like, whoa, so I'm part reptilian, or, you know, and it's like, it's just, you know, religion, it's actually fun. Mm-hmm. It's a lot funner than what's going on, like, you know, in the 3D world, right?
I mean, I guess I'm too, I don't know. I basically like really don't believe in anything, so like so like everything is just having lived,
That's
having
how smart you are.
Having worked in advertising, right? It's, you know, it's like, it's all market. Everything is marketing, you know, everything. We can't help it. America is a marketing country. It's like how we were founded on, you know, we're founded on like freedom and you know, it's all, those are buzzwords, you know, like these are all like, cause when you look at economics, then you're like, oh, you know, so if you don't look at economics, then it's like freedom, you know, and Trump is a marketer, you know what I mean? Like the media is everything is marketing, like Democrat, Republican, man, woman, black, white. It's all demographic marketing. It's all it is. It's like micro demographics now. You know, it's like niche demographic because they want to make it granular and figure out like, but it's really just to identify you and figure out what to sell you. That's all it is. And so I feel like even Republican, Democrats, they're actually, it's like pro wrestling, man. It's like it's pro wrestling. It's a manufactured conflict. So, you know what I mean? It's like they're actually in on it together, but they fight each other to make it look like, oh, there's a conflict. That's why, so Russiagate fails, right? Next thing they bring up is impeachment. And if you listen to what impeachment is, okay, this is what it is. So the first allegation is the president is a Russian puppet, right? He's a president. But then that failed. So then they were like, the president tried to stop arms being sent to the Ukraine who are fighting the Russians, right? Except he didn't stop them. He actually sent them. And in fact, Obama didn't stop them. And you know why? Because the people that propped up in Ukraine to fight Russia, they were fucking far-right Nazis. They're literal Nazis. You know what I'm saying? They're little people who fucking got power during the Nazis. So the Democrats, the side that are calling Trump a Nazi, they actually literally helped Nazis come into power. And then what they're impeaching him over is Trump threatening to not send weapons to those Nazis, even though he did. You know what I mean? Like that's what they're trying to get him with. That's why. So meanwhile, while impeachment's going on in the House, they passed his whole military budget. They gave him expanded powers in the Patriot Act, the NDAA. They gave him all these expanded powers. So then you're like, wait, if you believe this guy's a traitor, why would you give him all this power? Why would you give it? You know what I mean? Like, why would this happen? And then if you think about it, and you're like, oh, it's because they don't really give a shit about like if you really wanted to impeach Trump, you could get him on war crimes. You know what I mean? All you have to do is get him out. We're in 7 wars right now. He's bombing the shit out of Yemen. The arms deal he did to the Saudis, that should be a war crime. You know what I mean? Because there's
Trump?
Literally, yeah. I mean,
so elaborate. So because there's in the Great Awakening, there's this whole like kind of meme going around that Trump is really, really, really advocating world peace. Like he's like taking militaries out. He's signing peace treaties with India, Israel. Like really, just like he's like, we're done fighting, guys. Like, and so
yeah, but he hasn't actually. But that's like, I mean, Obama.
So are these wars that he inherited, or are these wars that he started? Because I think if he started them, there should be some, again, there's not journalists, biased,
right?
Unbiased journalists about this stuff, but like, I wonder why he's doing certain things.
Well, I think so 2 wars started in Bush, right? Afghanistan and Iraq. Under Obama, that expanded to seven countries. We have air power. We're exercising air power. See, I consider air power war. You know what I'm saying? Like a motherfucking plane came and shot 1 missile into your neighborhood, you would be that's war, right? I mean, that's not. We wouldn't stand for that. So I think anytime you exercise air power, that's war. And so we went from Iraq, Afghanistan, so now we're in Libya, Syria, Somalia, Nigeria, Yemen. Like, you know what I mean? These are 7 countries we regularly bomb, and nobody says anything about it. So that's what we did under the good guy. The good guy expanded it. So under Trump, so the only credit I can give Trump is that he didn't expand but he came in on not expanding the war. So that's like the bare minimum. But on the other hand, if you actually look at what he's doing, he's not furthering I mean, if you want world peace, you wouldn't move the fucking Israeli embassy to Jerusalem. You know what I mean? You wouldn't tell Israel. You wouldn't tell Israel to go ahead and you wouldn't do that. You know what I mean? The other thing you wouldn't do.
Part of the Great Awakening. Wait. Before you get out, let me just tie that in because I think it's a really nice tie-in. So part of the Great Awakening, if you look at some of these, theories, or not theories, but they're predictions or plans, is like they're saying that Israel is the last place. Because like if you look at like our ancient civilization, there's a lot of it that originates from Israel, and there's a lot of like truth there. So with anything to do with war in Israel, that's actually part of the Great Awakening. Now, I'm not saying we should go to war. This is great. I'm just saying that if you research during the Clinton administration or the Obama or whatever, that someone went into the museum. This is really interesting, Rojan. I want everyone to look it up. And I was like, man, these are the movies I want to make. I want to make a movie about this shit. Is people went into the oldest museum and stole all of the artifacts, all of the text, all of everything that tied the oldest parts of civilization. Someone stole them. Someone took them away, and they no longer became part of public consumption. And so and this happened in 1999, and I just find that fascinating that, and I think that's what's really interesting about the Great Awakening is that there's the civilization as we know it, the AD BC timeline. I personally, for the last 4 months of research, believe it to be 100% fabricated bullshit and designed to kind of keep this small world in proximity. And I think the more research you do, the more you realize man, do you know that there's the ice caps are melting in Antarctica because our world is shifting. This isn't climate. This isn't global. This is global warming. This is climate change, but it's not created by humans. This is actually a shift in our atmosphere. And so one of the proofs of that is that they just discovered, they've known about this, but again, it's not, this, I'm sorry, I'm very passionate about this. You know how Donald Trump is mainstream media? Well, a lot of people from the Great Awakening are saying mainstream scientists. So there's that connection between the media and the journalism and science and archaeology and the history of humankind.
Right.
And so a lot of these mainstream scientists, they're discovering pyramids in Antarctica that are fact that used to be what's considered Atlantis, which is 100,000-year-old civilization, the Atlanteans, who were mainly like a certain alien, not alien, yeah, alien, like extraterrestrial crossbreeding, humanoid. I think that's important too, is that if you consider us all humanoids, then we're not really aliens. We're part of humanoid species, which is feet, hands, head, brain, and we walk and talk and communicate and have souls, I guess. But like, so the whole Israel thing, did you hear Trump and Donald Trump Jr. and Donald Trump Jr. is interviewing his dad, saying like, so what's up with Area 51? What's going on? And Trump is like, yeah, we want to get down to the bottom of this. And actually Trump said, he's like, yeah, we want to open it up. People want to see it. People want to go through Area 51 like it's a museum. And it's like, you hear a president say that and you're like, dude, like we're going to be able to go there and learn about this stuff,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I feel like, I hear you, what you're saying about how like there's this like great civilizations and stuff coming out of Israel, but what else comes out of Israel? Palestinians. Actually, they're not allowed to come out actually because they're in prison. They actually have no freedom of movement. So as much as I would love to, you know what I mean? Like you could just take your, I could just take that Great Awakening thing and go down to Gaza and be like, hey, I know it sucks for you here, but listen, there's a plan. It doesn't mean shit to them. You know what I mean? And that's really what it comes down to, is that like, as much as I just feel like it's no different, any deification of leadership to me, I hold in suspicion no matter what, right? Because it's like, just as much as demonization, you know what I mean? Like, because people are actually human beings, and the thing is that like, it's just as preposterous to me that Trump is some kind of Nazi, like crypto-fascist Nazi who wants to commit genocide, just as much as he is the great savior who's going to come and save us. It's just as ridiculous to me, because the thing is that like that anybody who wants to be president should automatically be held in suspicion, right? Anybody who wants to be president, automatically, you already have a power. There's already a power thing. There's already an ego thing where you're like, I could do this. I could do this. And then in order to consolidate the power and the back, blood has to be spilled, like metaphorically or literally, you know what I mean? Like in order but that's the nature of power, right? That's the nature of how it is, especially centralized power. Like, so I think a lot of what you're talking about with the Great Awakening and stuff, what I see happening is a decentralization, is like going away from national politics, focusing on local, going away from these big news things and focusing on just like what's going on in your life, like the people next to you, you know what I mean? Like, so I see that occurring, and especially with the pandemic, I can see a good portion of the population just kind of disengaging with this shit. I mean, I feel like you're gonna have the choir, you preach to the choir, but there's gonna be the middle who are starting to like be like you and be like me or whatever, just be like, okay, this doesn't, we're actually smarter than you take us for, and we're not gonna fall.
Well, we've been quiet. I mean, for me, it's always been like, I've always been afraid to be really honest, because then I get ridiculed and I get like shunned, or that it's not marketable to talk about a theory or talk about a possibility that no one really sees possible, and then it becomes this like, this imagination. There's a lot of people that say come back to reality, and it's like, well, what is reality?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Which I am with that. I understand that. I mean, honestly, this is my theory, is that The Matrix was such a good movie that all we can do is use metaphors from them to try to explain life. So everything's like blue pilled, red pilled. Are you awoke? Are you waking up? Are you part of this? Are you in the simulation? It's like, it's actually, all we're doing is dealing with how amazing The Matrix was for the past 20 years. We can't even make a better movie than that. Like, not even the guys who made The Matrix, or girls who made The Matrix, you know what I mean? They had to actually literally switch their gender to top themselves. There's nothing else they could have done. You know what I mean? So I do feel like, you know what I mean? Like, I see a lot of this stuff happening, but it's also like, I don't know. Here's the thing. If things really came down to it and the entire world was like, hey, we got to rise up against the 1% and get the people who are exploiting it, you realize that's us, that's Americans, right? Americans are the ones, we are the ones.
Yeah, but it's more more like, I want to take out the 1% to lunch and and talk about how much power they have and how how this isn't really working. It doesn't, that's the thing about emotional intelligence, Rojan. And I think that's where America lacks a lot of it, to the nth degree, is like, we're not having these, it's not about down with the darkness. There's actually, there's a lot of greatness to a lot of these evil people, and it's not so much about defund the evil, it's about educating and connecting, and like you were just saying, like really just being conscious of it and looking people in the eye, and looking into their personality and getting why they are the way they are, and forgiveness. And not to sound preachy, but this is like what Jesus always said,
Yeah.
like,
Exactly. I mean, everything going on here. Listen, the thing is, like, you and I both come from, like, our families both escaped communism. You know what I'm saying? Like, that was like a real thing. You know what I mean?
It's a real thing, man.
It was a real thing. And
real thing.
what did they do? What did the communists do? What did the communists do when they take over, when they purge? What did they do? They kill the intellectuals. The first thing they do is they round up all the fucking intellectuals, all the people who can make sense of it, and murder them all, right? Because you got to get rid of them. Yeah, exactly. That's what Stalin did. It was what Mao did. That's what every fascist, right wing, left wing, any totalitarian movement, you come in.
And then they also took over all of the journalism. And
exactly.
All the
then you control the media, right? Then you control everything. So basically, I see us in a place where it's like the very people pointing the fingers and saying that fascism is here and coming are the greatest fascists themselves, are the most in danger of becoming part of that movement that they fear so much in the name of good, right? Because I think that's
the thing, yeah. In humanity,
in the name of exactly.
Like,
you ever read you should do. First of all, there's two things I think you'd be very interested in after listening to you talk. One is a guy named John Taylor Gatto. And John Taylor Gatto was a school teacher in New York who basically blew everyone away by taking his like Harlem math class and having them all ace the AP calculus exam. Like, even though they were like the lowest performing school, they were the lowest performing school. And then in 1 year,
that's another good movie. You got to do that movie.
You know why they won't? They fired that guy. You know why? Because he said, they asked him, "What's your fucking secret?" And he was like, "I'll tell you my secret. I just stopped teaching the curriculum. I just got off there." I'm serious. That's what and as soon as he said that, they fired his ass. They fired him. They shit-canned him. He's like persona non grata. But you know what he does advocate? He calls it the trivium. It's a trivium, and it's classic. It goes all the way back to Rome. It's a Roman education. Okay, the trivium is just three things. It's grammar, rhetoric, and logic. The three foundations to critical thinking. Okay, and if you think about it, why do you not want people to have critical thinking? Well, what if you have a material culture that runs on advertising and you need people to be susceptible to the media and advertising? You can't have critical thinking. You know what I mean? You want to remove those tools, right? You want to take those tools out. So that's basically, this is a fight that's been going on a long time. So it's very, it speaks to what you're saying. You know what I'm saying? Because a lot of this re-education involves instilling critical thinking into people, which is actually an ancient a thing that's been around for a long time. It's actually more recent that we lost it. We've had it for much longer, and then I've lost it recently, and then I'm blanking on the other thing because it was what was it about? I'm sorry, dude. What were you saying just before this? You were talking about
man, my head.
I know. I totally forgot.
We're talking about taking over communism, taking over the news narrative.
Yeah, the communism thing. So like, basically, you can see how what we're undergoing is, it's like, it's what it is like to me, I feel like Trump is actually like a mirror that people look at. They're like,
they're like philosophical concept, by the way. That is the sense of the mirror is part of the Great Awakening. It's like, I think that's a whole nother episode, but like, go ahead. I'm just saying that's huge.
So people looked into the mirror and saw the truth and recoiled from it and rejected it and said, no, that's not the truth. You know what I mean? Instead of being like, like having a come to Jesus moment where you're like, I'm the sinner. You know what I mean? Like, I'm the sinner. Here we go. This is what it's called. There's a book. It's called The Gulag Archipelago. Okay. The book is called The Gulag Archipelago. It's by a guy named Alexander Solzhenitsyn. And this is a guy who basically wrote a firsthand account of being taken to Stalin's gulags in Siberia and how the whole shit went down. So he basically starts from like at first it just started with like dissidents, and then it just started with like certain intellectuals. Then it started with doctors. Then it just became like nobody knew. It just became like every night it would be new people just getting rounded up. No one had any idea. Then it became people were being encouraged to rat on other people. Like if you think they're not revolutionary, you rat them out. So then people just start ratting on everyone. Next thing you know, everybody's here. So he was like, he would be in this camp watching people come in and slowly, and some of the people would be like, well, this is all a mistake. There's no way that this is going to keep having it. You know what I mean? There's no way this is going to be. And those are the people who die first. Like this went on, you know, these people were in these camps for like 20 fucking years. Like they were fucking in there a long time. And so his main thesis is like, this is what I've seen of human nature. This is what I've seen of human nature having been in these camps. First of all, the people who live are the ones who fight. They just don't give up. They never, you know what I mean? Because they break you, they try to break your, and if they don't break you, you'll either die with dignity or you'll make it. Like that's it, right? That's basically right. And then the other thing is
Jesus Christ, that's the Jesus story.
The other thing that he comes out with, the thesis of the book, is that like the greatest danger to society is one that believes that they can't do evil. Because they're the ones capable of the most evil. Because that's what he saw in the camp. He saw the people turning in other people, believing they're on the side of good, and them being put in the camps themselves. You know what I mean? And not understanding that like, oh shit, the tide turned on me. You know what I mean? And that like I am the very evil that I am fighting. It's me. You know what I mean? And I mean, it's just like, you know, the Nazis, when they're exterminating everybody, they thought they were doing good. They weren't like, we're evil. You know, they were like, this is good, and this is, and that's why they could get everybody to go along with it, because everybody believed they were doing the right thing. And I think like America is in a unique position where for 20 years we've been at war, you know, basically just murdering people around the world with that. Dude, I have friends like comics who've come back from the war, and like you get them talking and it's fucking horrific. Like the shit they start saying is like, it's war crimes. And like my friend, he's not my friend, but this dude, he totally admitted to me, he's like, yo, if we were on the losing side, they would Nuremberg trial us. Like we would qualify for the Nuremberg trial. Like we've done things that the Nazis did that we could get, but we're on the winning side, and that's why it's fine. You know what I mean? So I think like, you know, what you're saying is it's very important, because like it's all part of the realization that there is no separation. It's honestly, it's kind of lame, but this is what I'm realizing is like everything is about the yin yang. And so it's so fucking lame as an Asian guy, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, actually it's not. It's not. It's,
you know, no, but you know what I'm saying. I'm joking.
That's a good point, you know. And I just this little side note, a great awakening side note. Like the world is split in between two main religions, right? Christianity, Hindu, and you know the whole yin and yang, which I think India kind of plays into the yin and yang and the circle of life. And so what I feel like, you know, is this whole Christianity and Eastern way of living. It like as a whole, it got ripped apart. And then so, you know, if you really apply Eastern philosophy with Western philosophy, man, you have like the coolest thing ever. And it's like we're all like capable of doing so much, you know, in this world of yin and yang, you know. And it's like I feel like that is a huge awakening. Is like if you look at the history of mankind and religion, somewhere down the line, it just got like diluted and spread out instead of it all coming to one. And so as you're, you know, you're being a little bit like when you're saying, I hate to bring yin and yang. I'm like, no, that is it right now. You know? It's
I mean, it is, because it is literally like you are your enemy. Your enemy is you know what I mean? Until you realize that, you'll never have peace, you know?
The mirror.
But you know, I also wonder though, on the counter side, that like, you know, a lot of people talk about like what you're talking about, everybody coming together and sort of having one sort of language, one thing. That's what the story of the Tower of Babel was actually about. You know what I mean? Remember the Tower of Babel, right? And so, because once humanity did unite, they thought they were better than God, essentially. You know, their hubris basically knew no bounds, and that's why they were spread.
Fascinating, yeah.
And I think there's a very interesting, there's this book called Snow Crash by Neil Stephenson, and the like theme of the book is that like there's also a Tower of Babel going on in our minds. And so if we all achieve the same linguistic culture and language, just like a biological organism, you would be susceptible to mind viruses. You know what I mean? Like, so the diversity of culture and language is actually important in order to create buffers against mind viruses, because if everybody thinks the same, you just need one virus to wipe everyone out. You know what I mean? Which I think is like.
You bring up a great point. Finish. I'm sorry.
No, I'm just saying that's all part of the like, it's all part of the yin yang shit. Like the double edge is like with good there's bad. Inside good, the kernel of good. Inside good there's a kernel of evil. Inside evil there's a kernel of good. You know what I mean? Like that's that whole thing. Yeah.
I know. I don't know. And you think, when you think about a world that's like all one and there's no conflict or whatever, it's quite boring. It's
right.
like if we weren't getting back to our original, identification of who we really are, and it would be very boring. I think we would just be like,
it'd be conformity. Everybody would all do the same thing. There'd be like no jokes. It'd be like no one. Right? No one could ever say the wrong thing to get a laugh because you're not allowed to do that. But let's see, dude, Patrick. I think we should wrap up soon. It's been about an hour. Is there anything? First of all, I know you made the request that I release this on July 4th on America's birthday, which I'm happy to do.
And what's really funny is, my initials is VPA, and what you just said is very proud American. And I think that's true. That's like a cool fucking thing that I'm really gonna take on, and maybe put that in the thing. VPA parentheses very proud American talks the Great Awakening. Because I think I want to end. If I could end it on like it would be like, look, the Great Awakening is what it means to you. What it like. You're really getting present to who your friends are. You're really getting present to what your goals are, what your impact is. And like for me, it's all about bringing local. Like if you affect a local place and you really focus on just a local spot, you can actually evolve the consciousness that can then permeate into the rest of the world. And I think for me, conscious media is kind of my whole thing. It's my whole awakening. I'm going to start making content with business owners of products and practices, and kind of like creating content that is valuable, that if you invest your time into it, you'll walk away smarter, more aware, and then and in that awareness you can actually create the world that you want, and so I'm really encouraging people to think of the Great Awakening as like what it means to you, and doing my research, and I got to send you some links of videos and stuff that maybe because of those books, I want to see all the links to all those books. And there's another book too, like This Is Not Your Propaganda. It's such a phenomenal book. I don't know if you've heard of it. It is like 6-dimensional of how the society operates in the world of advertisement and social media. Bro, it is amazing. And then there's another film, The Cosmic Secret, which is, again, you don't have to believe everything, but it just has you thinking in different ways and expanding your thoughts and what the normality is. And so when we talk about the Great Awakening, like for me, I'm never, ever being a slave to my email ever again. Like that's part of the Great Awakening. Like if you need to text me, if you need to email me something, you need to text me that you emailed me and what it is, because I'm not checking my email like regularly and responding right away. Like it's just, it really messed up. It really messes with me as an artist, And so I'm going to be as an email, as a PO box, let me know you sent me something and I'll go check it, And so that's just a really small way of the Great Awakening, and I'm really excited about making films in this consciousness, like I can see a movie about sexual energy. That's something we don't talk about, but it's something that I'm becoming really, really, really aware of, documentaries on movement, on politics, and we can create these quilts and these like new ways of looking at it that actually don't create agitation or anger or aggression. It's like in an emotional, intelligent way. And so what I really hope people get from the Great Awakening is like, it's just being aware of how powerful the world is around us and how it can influence us and our dreams and our choices and the people who we associate with, and that there's, dude, that the biggest thing that I've ever discovered during this is how many people are really into this stuff.
Oh, yeah.
It blew my mind. I used to think that nobody's into this stuff because I would talk to celebrities and they're like, we don't want to talk about that. I was like, why not? This is the cool stuff. They're like, no. And it's like, imagine talk shows. Imagine like, like Ellen DeGeneres talks about big concepts, not just dancing and like being like talking about stupid stuff. I mean, it's not disrespecting the writers of it or anything, but it's not really benefiting you. It's actually distracting you.
Yeah, but honestly, I kind of prefer that they don't. You know what I mean? Like it's like this is for the people.
This is a great debate.
You know what I mean? This is like it always gets co-opted. All these things get co-opted once commercial money comes in, celebrities come in, elite money comes. You know what I mean? And I'm actually all for populist awakenings and populist movements, but it's like once you know what I mean? Like once some star gets in there, you're just like.
Yeah, I think people don't.
But I feel you.
They won't want to watch it. You know what I mean? So
I feel you though. I think the market is changing. You know what I'm saying? Like people do have a hunger because they're tired of it, man. They're fucking, you know what I mean? It's been so long of just like, it's war. It's just war, and it's like, we're not even talking about the actual wars we're in. We're just having this culture war. You know what I mean? Like that's how privileged we are. We're so privileged. We can juggle 7 wars and a culture war and a pandemic on top of it. You know what I mean? Like that's how privileged we are. So I'm totally with you. It's really about people waking up and just being, we don't basically want to be complicit in this, in this fucking system anymore, and that's really
that's not what the system's about. It's not about being complicit. It's about pushing the envelope, and like that's what it is to be American, and that's why I think this forth is so important. Yeah, well, I just listened to Candace Owens and T.I., and they had this huge debate. We got to add that link too. Really, really amazing stuff, because this is the first time I'm seeing, my privilege, seeing, really like people having their own discussions about something that's really mainstream right now, and I've never seen that before, like a rapper and a future potential presidential candidate going at it, and talking about, it's a really brilliant like thing. And you just look at it and you're seeing like Candace Owens and T.I., and it's like a Jerry Springer show, bro. And it's like, guys, like, this is like, I get it. This is like, people are very enthusiastic about it, and like, got to start somewhere, but they're like, ooh, oh, and I'm like, guys, just like,
it's a spectacle. It's just a spectacle. Yeah, it just becomes spectacle. Yeah, but I think, what?
Saying some amazing stuff,
Well, in some ways though, I actually don't also like fault the people or the audience or whatever, because when things change, they'll change with it. People just do whatever is offered. So when you, like for you, for example, you start offering something that they don't have access to, they'll fucking go to it. That's like Joe Rogan's podcast. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Everybody told that guy that he was dumb for doing this, waste of time. Now they're all begging to be on his show. You know what I mean? Now they're either trying to take him down. They're either trying to take him down to some alt-right guy, or they're trying to be on his show, or they're begging him to be on their show because nobody gets numbers like him. You know what I'm saying? Like, so that's the whole thing.
I love him, man. He's refreshing. Well, this is another thing we haven't really talked about, and I just got to say this.
All right, go for it.
Trying to kind of, this is like the crash course, or the 101, the Great Awakening for Dummies type of thing, and this is a really, really, really huge important part of it. And it's really important that I bring it up, is that there's this masculine divine energy and that there's feminine divine energy. Right. And like, I feel like if you look at the history of mankind, we've been enslaving we've been enslaving divine feminine energy through masculinity. And I think this is a huge awakening that I think like, we're gonna kind of get present to more and more, and it's not to say that women should rule us. We're just saying that women really haven't had the opportunity to rule, and in a responsible
Wait, have you ever
way.
been in a relationship? No, I'm just kidding.
No, I get that.
I'm just kidding.
It's really, but it's
yeah.
Divine masculinity also rises, because it's going to benefit both. And I think for the last 4 years since Trump's been president, there's been a really demasculizing of American and of people. And so I think like with the Great Awakening, I'm actually being proud to be a man again, and I think like that's really important. And I'm also learning about how the learned pattern, the learned behavior of the bad part of our society, and how men were brought up, and how we were brought up, I was molested as a kid, and I would try to tell people about it, my peers, and everyone's like, dude, nice, whoa, that's awesome, man. And I'm like, no, something's wrong here, guys. They're like, this is good for you. And so like that, I think that's part of the awakening, is that we've been brought up in this kind of masculine society that doesn't really allow us to kind of be humble and listening to every side and how things should be done. And I think there's really something to say for that. And, you know, dude, one of my favorite people to watch, and this is where I'm going to lose all my followers, is the press secretary. Holy shit.
It's hilarious.
Dude.
Yeah.
Dude, like the way she handles herself, and it's like this, like feminine but masculine kind of perfect combination. It's like, dude, I love watching it. It's you know, anyways, that's something that, like, I think we're gonna be able to make women like that. You know, it's funny. This is like, this is a joke I really wanted to say on this podcast. Was like, I want to do a film about a white supremacist Democrat who wants to enslave the world and is voting for Biden. I want to do a movie about that. You know, like imagine that, like that perspective. You know, and why aren't we able to do that? If I made that film, I would be, you know, I'd probably end up in a body bag or something. You know, where if you said that joke, people would also maybe boo you more or less. You know, and so it's like, why can't we play the masculine and the feminine and just play with all of it, you know, and just really stir it up, you know, in a peaceful, thought-provoking way, you know, without.
And here we are back to the yin yang again. God damn it. It's goddamn yin yang, can't escape it. Well, dude, this has been an awesome talk, man. I think I'll definitely have you back on to talk more, to find out more. Yeah, definitely. We should share links with each other about these books and shit. I'd love to find out. Is there anything you want to? Oh, go, yeah. Is there anything you want to plug, dude? Like fucking website or movie or anything coming out?
You know, like just a little insight of like the type of films that I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do real people, real businesses, real like reality, but like not in a reality show sense. You know, I'm gonna gonna hijack the reality show and create a reality show in real time for people and their businesses and their stories and their perspectives. And I think, like, you know, I'm just really excited to do that. And so, you know, I'm going to be based in, you know, I'm still going to be LA, you know, but I'm going to be kind of going back to Palm Beach and kind of working over there, also working with LA. I've got a bunch of projects here with like somatics and physical therapy and like massage and all of these like conscious videos that, you know, are going to be teaching people things, you know, that, so it's like, it's kind of an education, but like in a very attractive way, profitable way, non-profitable way. So that's like kind of where I'm taking my career. I got a film coming out that I did in Cuba about rent in Cuba. Really excited about it. It's such a positive, like, you know, I learned so much about that experience. And when you watch it, you can see, you know, all the differences of like, you know, socialist and capitalist, and, you know, how humans can drop all of that and actually really create an amazing, you know, collaboration. And then I'll have an album of my grandmother coming out, which I'm really excited about. And there's also a movie about it. And so there's all these, like, you know, 2021 is going to be like a really great year. And, you know, and yeah, I think that's about. Oh, and I acted in a film too that is getting a lot of traction on the border, which is called Fenced. You know, they're looking to do a feature too about that. So I'm trying to act to, you know, just kind of being where the universe puts me and being an instrument of reality and truth and, you know, pushing the envelope. So that's kind of my plug. A lot of people are wondering what the hell I'm going to do, and I think with this podcast, you know, people will kind of get in tune with it.
So you have a website or something, or where's that? Can people find you?
VictorPatrick.me. I need to update it. You know, it kind of just shows the type of videos that, you know, I'm involved with and type of content that I'm doing, and that I think people are going to be really receptive to, which they weren't. You know, it's not that they weren't. Maybe I'm a bad salesman, you know, but I feel like it's going to be a lot more easier to kind of say, hey, let's make this, let's make this, let's make this, let's talk about water, let's talk about economy, let's talk about, you know, politics, but not in a raw way, but in a, again, emotional, intelligent way. And I'm really excited about all of that. And I really enjoy conversations like this. I think, you know, I think it's necessary. I think this is what it means to be American, you know, and this is the greatest thing. Like if you live, I've been to Haiti, Cuba, Taiwan, Malaysia, you know, Canada. I've lived in all of these places. You know, socialist California. I've lived in all of these places, and you know, when you really get a global perspective, you really get grateful about this incredible country and the possibilities of this country. And I feel like, you know, why I'm really happy that this is being released on July 4th is like, I think today is a day to kind of reflect on this is the greatest country in the world. And, you know, and I think a lot of integrity is getting put back in, and we can operate on, this could be the Renaissance period. This could be the time where we solve world hunger, where we solve energy, where we solve all of these problems, world peace. Like this is the time. This is the time. I really feel like we are operating on a frequency where that's achievable. And yes, it's going to take a lot out of you, and it's not easy, but that's your great awakening. You know, with that, when you find that, when you tune into that, you can actually be part of the solution and not the problem. And I think that, you know, on this greatest day of July 4th, you know,
fucking loves America, guys. He fucking loves America, goddammit. Fucking loves America. I mean, I'm pretty. I love America. I mean, I love America, you know, just in the sense, just like an adult loves, you know, not like a child loves a parent, you know what I mean? But like an adult, it's like, I understand what this is, but, you know, hey, it is what it is. And I'm lucky to be here, you know, in that way.
Yeah.
Even that I acknowledge that it's on the backs of many dead, the backs of the many enslaved, you know, and still to this day, there are many underneath us, you know, that's the only way we can be free is through the enslavement of others. So, you know, so I think, you know, that is something that is important to recognize, you know, so that we can move on.
You know, to elaborate and not to discredit any specific movement, but see how you're being a slave to yourself, you know, and I think that's you know, I think that is the bigger picture here. That's the 6D conversation is like, what are you being a slave to? And just stop. Just stop.
Right. Just getting awareness. Well, it's very much like the idea of meditation is that with awareness. Prayer. Yeah. Well, that with awareness comes choice, because otherwise you have no choice. You're just kind of blindly going through life, just acting out instinctually, you
know. The escalator or the stairs, right? You know.
Right. Yeah.
Take
man.
The stairs.
Okay. Unless the escalator's broken, then there's stairs too.
There's stairs. Well, yeah.
That's a Mitch Hedberg joke.
Well, you know, to elaborate, that sometimes when you walk up the escalator that's broken, it's like an illusion that it's moving, and so
it feels like it's moving. Yeah,
that's not good. So don't even take the escalator. That is a man-made invention. Stop it. Get off of it. Don't even use it. Don't even acknowledge it. You know, so dude, this has been so great. I love your comedy. I love you, dude. And like,
thank you, brother.
You know,
thank you for your support.
Keep up the work. Yeah.
Hell yeah, thank you for your support online and all that shit. And fucking, I support you in your endeavor. You know, I'm excited to see like what new shit comes out, you know, out of all this. So again,
well, it's all going to be positive. It's all going to be light. It's all going to be spiritual in some dark and twisted way. You know, like that's man. You know, like, you know, we're magicians. Let's have a little fun, you know. But let's get a little real here. Let's the Matrix. You know, with this being said, they better not mess up the Matrix. You know,
Matrix 4. I know.
Matrix 4. Neil Patrick Harris is in it. You know, you know, let's not mess that up. You know, this is like,
we'll see.
We're gonna see where Hollywood's actually at. You know, are they gonna really call it, or are they gonna put us back in our
yeah, I'm skeptical, man. I don't know. It's just like, I think they should just stop trying to reinvent the wheel and just try to do what you're doing, you know, try to do something new. But anyways,
not to say I would love to direct Marvel movies and some Star Wars, you know.
Sure. Yeah, man.
We'll see.
All right, dude.
Yeah, I can keep talking to you forever. You're amazing, Virgin.
Thank you, brother. Thank you for everything.
And welcome to the Great Awakening. Follow that hashtag. I dare you. That's the only thing. All right, brother.
All right, man. Have a good one, man.
Take care. Namaste.